Hello everyone, thank you a lot for attending my presentation. My name is Marc from the DLR Institute for System Dynamics and Control, and in the following I will give you an insight into our work on the FlightDynamics Library for aircraft mission simulation. Let me give you a bit of background to better understand our motivation and methods. There is a consortium called Mission with the aim to develop a standardized approach for model-based aircraft design and system integration. It consists of experienced companies in the field of aerospace engineering, information technology and simulation. For example, ESI-ITI provides the CAE software Simulation X that is based on Modelica language, and therefore I guess that at least some of you are familiar with it. As it is the chief concern of this work, let's have a quick glance at aircraft design. As already mentioned, you can distinguish between general aircraft design and the system design and system integration. General aircraft design on the one hand has the holistic picture in mind and considers the resulting aircraft performance and capabilities. Next to other disciplines, it includes the aircraft sizing as well as structural and aerodynamic design. On the other hand, several components and systems are required to achieve the desired functionalities. For example, these are landing gear, engine, and actuators. Of course, a single component can have a crucial impact on the total performance, so integration plays an important role, and the aircraft design is an iterative process. Next to the design of a novel configuration, system integration is also relevant when single components of an existing aircraft design are exchanged. In the course of the operator project, we developed a new FlightDynamics library. By providing it to the partners of the Mission Consortium, we allowed them to virtually fly their components in a realistic environment and optimize their systems, for example, with regard to environmental objectives. This is how the altitude profile of a typical aircraft mission looks like. It can be separated into several flight phases that are characterized by different speeds, altitudes, and path angles, but also flight controllers and modes of operation. Conventionally, aircraft mission simulation was performed using rather low-fidelity 3DOF models, which are longitudinal point mass models in most cases, to reduce the computational cost for simulating complete missions. Sometimes the flight phases are assumed to be quasi-static, while transitions between the segments are neglected to further ease the computational load. In Operator, we had a different approach because detailed insight into the system behavior during different flight phases was of interest. The aircraft model used here is a 6 degree of freedom rigid body model encompassing translational and rotational motion. You can see the top-level structure on the right, and we will take a closer look into the aircraft model later, but let me first talk briefly about the flight control system and flight management system. The flight control system is in the conventional cascaded form with inner loop stabilization for the rotational motion and auto-loop autopilot. It has several modes for the respective flight phases. For example, during ground operations, a completely different controller structure is active, considering that different actuators compared to airborne situations are deployed. For instance, aerodynamic rudder effectiveness is proportional to the squared velocity and has a neglectable impact at low speeds as they occur on ground. Therefore, the aircraft uses the steering wheel until a certain threshold velocity is reached and the controller mode is switched. This example shows that switching between different control modes is dependent on the current aircraft state. A state machine inside the FMS triggers the switching of control modes. To allow a smooth transition between two mission segments, the switching is conducted before reaching the end of the first segment. Above that, the flight management system is responsible for translating the mission description and the position of the target runway into a flyable trajectory, acting as input for the controller. The calculation of the reference trajectory and initial position is performed during initialization. The FMS also includes a configuration manager that is responsible for landing gear retraction and flap settings. All in all, we obtain a high-fidelity aircraft mission simulation that covers both ground and air operations in detail. The user can either simulate a complete mission or instead investigate specific scenarios that represent critical flight states or maneuvers. The rejected takeoff will be covered later as an example. Let's jump right into the aircraft model. The aim was to provide a modular structure that allows to easily integrate different systems and to adapt the aircraft assembly. For that, multi-body connectors were used as standardized interfaces where possible, and the deployment of partial models allows to quickly exchange whole subsystems. The inner-outer concept was chosen for environmental and atmospheric models. The Sixdorf equation of motion lie inside the airframe, and external forces and torque result from the connected components. Weight and balance varies due to fuel flow, and the updated mass variables and current position of the center of gravity are calculated and then passed to the airframe. The movement of the aircraft with respect to the reference coordinate systems are covered inside the kinematics block. The sensor block passes relevant aircraft states to the controller and flight management system. To obtain realistic inputs, noise, delay and offsets are added inside the sensor models. The aerodynamics have the biggest impact on system and input behavior and are therefore extremely relevant when modeling an aircraft. We face a contradiction here between the desired high fidelity of our simulations and the large time horizons to be simulated in acceptable time, and we consequently need a good balance between accuracy and time efficiency. Therefore, we use tabulated data derived from linear aerodynamic models, which are validated and corrected with CFD simulations. These are provided from the DLR Institute for Aerodynamics inside a DLR-wide remote computing environment, and you can see one of their colorful results on the right side. Aerodynamics have a high-dimensional input space that has an impact on the resulting forces and moments. You can see here that we can divide them. There are variables that characterize the airflow the aircraft is facing. Then we have the orientation of the aircraft with respect to this airflow. And finally, our actuators to control the aircraft, and these include rudders and also high lift settings. Aircraft actuation systems have a redundant design, meaning that two actuators operate the same control surface. You see the actuator system model including two actuators and a flexible rudder on the left, and the model of the two respective electromechanical actuators on the right. There are different ways how to operate the two redundant actuators. If both actuators are active, which can be controlled with a Boolean flag, that reduces the recovery time in case of failure of one actuator, but also can introduce a so-called force fight between actuators at the control surface. This occurs if the actuators show different dynamic behavior, for example if two different types of actuators like hydraulic and electromechanic are deployed. In this configuration here, two electromechanical actuators are used, so they are of the same type. Still, they can also cause a force fight due to production variance or varying abrasion. In the main model, actuator 1 always performs as expected, while actuator 2 can deviate from normal behavior. The actuator response is then modified by an offset, gain error, or time delay in the deviation block. Above that, several failure modes like a stuck motor or motor runaway can be introduced. As a result, the flexible rudder is deformed according to the torque and position difference. Let's investigate some results that were obtained with the new FlightDynamics Library in Simulation X. First, we take a look at the rejected takeoff scenario, which is a certification-relevant test. The velocity plot can help us to understand the maneuver. During an aircraft takeoff, there are several velocity thresholds to support the pilot, indicated here by the dotted lines. In red you see the decision speeds, which depends on both aircraft and runway characteristics like length and surface conditions. This line indicates where the abortion of the takeoff in case of failure is still possible without exceeding the end of the runway. The auto takeoff controller accelerates until the decision speed is reached. At the vertical dashed line, the rejected takeoff maneuver is initiated, activating the brake and reverse thrust. A large amount of kinetic energy has to be converted to heat in the wheels and the brake system, causing high mechanical and thermal loads on the landing gear. Integrating the velocity profile yields the red S-curve for the traveled distance. In blue, you can see the deviation from the runway center line, which is below 1 meter thanks to the heading controller. Now we turn to the forces acting on the landing gear. In the bottom plot, the black and magenta dashed line show the force in x direction, which corresponds to the friction force between tire and ground. One can see that during the acceleration phase, the friction has a low magnitude but increases drastically after activation of brakes, thereby decelerating the aircraft. Next to x-forces, it is also interesting to consider forces perpendicular to the ground. The blue curve shows the vertical force acting on the nose gear, while the lower red and green dashed line represent vertical forces on the main gear. Nose and main gear are unloaded during the acceleration phase because of the lifting force, which is proportional to the squared velocity. When the brake maneuver is initiated, it is clearly visible that the nose gear load increases while the main gear load decreases due to the pitching moment caused by inertia. While inertia causes the vertical main gear load to drop briefly, the decrease in lift force causes a rise in the vertical force again when the aircraft decelerates. Please note that the aircraft is dropped from a few centimeters at the beginning of the simulation for an easy and correct initialization of the spring damper system. The chief ambition of this work was to simulate complete flight missions with high accuracy. That allows to investigate specific systems, but also different operational approaches, as introduced for example by an environmental control system. As shown in the plots of velocity and altitude, the aircraft can follow the demanded trajectory with only little deviation. One exception is during approach, where the user demands for the mission are not feasible for the considered aircraft. Looking at the fuel flow, one can see that the aircraft engine is already in idle, while the descent still converts potential energy to kinetic energy. Therefore, the commanded velocity profile cannot be followed. The approach and landing is performed using ILS guidance modeled by airport instruments on ground and airborne sensors. The characteristic nose-up during the landing maneuver is introduced by the flare controller, which is activated below a threshold altitude. We can see that the state machine correctly identifies the different flight phases, except both transitions before and after the cruise flight. This is acceptable because the controller structure is similar. Let's conclude. The extension of our FlightDynamics library allows to simulate complete missions with higher accuracy than conventional approaches, with a good balance between computational time and fidelity. It enables the mission consortium to virtually fly subsystems that are still in development, and also allows insight into new modes of operation like continuous descent approaches that have the potential for a smaller environmental footprint. The library will be further extended with additional capabilities. New fields of deployment already arise from unmanned systems and new propulsion concepts. An example that combines both can be seen in the picture. This is a solar power-driven high-altitude platform that is currently being developed at different DLR institutes. Next to the electric propulsion, the structural flexibility is a key characteristic that requires further extension of the presented FlightDynamics library, which works with a rigid body model. Finally, I want to thank you for your attention, and if you are interested in our FlightDynamics library, please don't hesitate to contact me or my colleagues.